Hi, my beautiful family. Welcome back to Life-Changing True Stories. Today I bring you a powerful and deeply loving story. Asterisk Damian Cole stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows of his corner office on the 32nd floor, surveying the city skyline like a king surveying his kingdom. At 42, he had built an empire in commercial real estate that most men could only dream of. 3 luxury hotels, a chain of upscale restaurants, and a property portfolio worth over $200 million. Success had a smell, and Damian wore it like expensive cologne. His assistant knocked gently before entering. "Mr. Cole, the Henderson contract is ready for your signature?" "They've agreed to all your terms." "Of course they did," Damian replied without turning around. "Everyone agrees eventually. It's just a matter of patience and pressure." The truth was, Damian Cole had perfected the art of getting what he wanted. In business, he was ruthless. In life, he was calculating. And in love, well, he had learned to choose partners who understood that his career came first, second, and third. His phone buzzed with a message from his fiancée, Cassandra Wright. She was confirming dinner with investors that evening, reminding him to wear the navy suit she preferred. Cassandra was perfect for him in every way that mattered. Beautiful, sophisticated, well-connected, and most importantly, she never asked him to be anything other than successful, unlike someone else once had. Damian pushed that thought away quickly. He had become very good at not thinking about Olivia Bennet. 5 years was long enough to bury most memories, especially painful ones. The breaking point the afternoon passed in a blur of conference calls and contract negotiations. By 6 o'clock, Damian felt the familiar tightness in his chest that he had been ignoring for weeks. Just stress, he told himself. Nothing that a good scotch and a successful deal would not cure. He was reviewing financial projections when the pain struck. Sudden and violent, like someone had reached into his chest and squeezed his heart with an iron fist. The papers scattered from his hands as he gripped the edge of his desk, his breath coming in short, desperate gasps. "Mr. Cole?" His assistant's voice seemed to come from very far away. "Mr. Cole, are you all right?" The world tilted sideways. Damian tried to speak, but only a strangled sound escaped. His left arm went numb, and a cold sweat broke out across his forehead. In that moment, with pain radiating through his chest like lightning, Damian Cole realized that he was not invincible after all. The last thing he saw before darkness took him was the city lights blurring into streaks of gold and white. Beautiful and indifferent to his suffering, awakening to the impossible sounds filtered through the darkness slowly. The steady beep of machines, the soft shuffle of footsteps, hushed voices speaking in medical terminology. Damian fought his way toward consciousness, his body feeling heavy and foreign. When he finally managed to open his eyes, the harsh fluorescent lights made him wince. The ceiling tiles above were sterile white, marked with tiny perforations. A hospital. He was in a hospital. Memory came flooding back. The pain. The collapse. The ambulance ride that he barely remembered. "You're awake." "That's good." The voice was professional, calm, and achingly familiar. Damian turned his head slowly, every movement feeling like it required enormous effort. And there she was, standing beside his bed with a medical chart in her hands, looking exactly like the ghost he had been trying to forget for 5 years. Olivia. Her name escaped his lips as barely a whisper. Dr. Olivia Bennet met his gaze with eyes that were carefully neutral. Revealing nothing, her dark hair was pulled back in a professional bun, and she wore blue scrubs under a white coat. She looked older, more confident, but those eyes were the same ones that had once looked at him with love. "Mr. Cole," she said, her voice deliberately formal, "you suffered a severe myocardial infarction, a heart attack. We performed an emergency angioplasty to clear the blocked artery. You were fortunate. Another 20 minutes and the outcome would have been very different." Damian stared at her, trying to process the impossible situation. Of all the hospitals in the city, of all the cardiologists who could have treated him, fate had delivered him into the hands of the woman whose heart he had broken. "You saved my life," he said quietly. "I did my job," Olivia replied, her tone clipped. Any cardiologist would have done the same. The weight of the past Olivia checked his vital signs with practiced efficiency, her movements economical and precise. She avoided looking directly at him, focusing instead on the monitors and 4 lines that connected him to various machines. "How long have I been here?" Damien asked. "10 hours. You were in surgery for 3 hours, and you've been in recovery since then." She made a notation on his chart. "Your fiancée has been notified. She's in the waiting room." Of course, Cassandra was here. Probably perfectly composed, making calls. Managing the situation like she managed everything else in their lives. "Olivia, I need to talk to you about your recovery will require significant lifestyle changes," Olivia interrupted, her voice taking on a harder edge. "No stress, no excessive work hours, regular exercise, a complete dietary overhaul. You'll need to follow up with a cardiologist regularly. I'm recommending Dr. Patterson for your ongoing care. He won't be my doctor." Despite everything, Damien felt a strange disappointment. For the first time, Olivia looked directly at him, and in that moment, he saw past her professional mask to the pain underneath. "No, Mr. Cole, I won't be. It wouldn't be appropriate given our history." The word history hung in the air between them, weighted with everything unsaid. Their history was a 3-year relationship that had ended in tears and recriminations. It was lazy Sunday mornings and fierce arguments about his priorities. It was Olivia begging him to let her in, to share his burdens, to let her be more than an accessory to his ambition. It was Damien, too proud and too stubborn, telling her that if she could not accept him as he was, she should leave. And she had left. Fragments of memory as Olivia turned to go. Memory crashed over Damien like a wave. He remembered the last night they had been together, 5 years ago in the apartment they had shared. Olivia had been crying, mascara running down her cheeks, her voice breaking as she pleaded with him. "I'm not asking you to give up your career, Damien. I'm asking you to make room for me in your life. To see me, really see me, not just when it's convenient." And he had said, cold and dismissive, "If being with me is so difficult, maybe you should find someone easier to love." The look on her face had nearly broken him then. But he had been too proud to take it back, too convinced of his own righteousness. She had packed her things that night and walked out of his life, and he had let her go, telling himself it was for the best. Now, lying in a hospital bed with his chest held together by surgical intervention and medical science, Damien wondered if anything he had built in the past 5 years had been worth what he had lost. Olivia." "Wait," he called out, his voice stronger now. "Please." She paused at the door, but did not turn around. "What is it, Mr. Cole?" "I'm sorry. For everything." Her shoulders tensed, and for a long moment, she said nothing. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely audible. "Your apology is 5 years too late. It means nothing now. Focus on your recovery, Damien. Focus on the life you've built without me." She walked out, and the door closed behind her with a soft click that sounded to Damien's ears like the closing of a book he had thought was finished. A visitor in pearls, half an hour later. Cassandra swept into the room like a fashion magazine come to life. She wore a cream-colored designer suit, pearls at her throat, her blonde hair styled perfectly despite the late hour. She kissed Damien's forehead carefully, mindful of the tubes and wires. "Darling, you gave me such a fright," she said, settling into the chair beside his bed. "The doctor said you'll need at least 2 weeks of rest. I've already cleared your calendar and postponed the investor meetings." "Thank you," Damien said. Though his mind was elsewhere, Cassandra chatted about logistics and plans, about how they would manage his recovery, about which assistant would handle which responsibilities. She was organized and efficient, treating his heart attack like any other business problem to be solved. "The cardiologist who treated you seemed rather young," Cassandra commented. "I would have thought they'd assign someone more senior to a patient of your standing." "She's one of the best in her field," Damien said quietly. "I'm lucky she was on call, I suppose." Cassandra checked her phone. "I should go. I have an early meeting tomorrow, and I need to brief your legal team about the contracts that need attention." She stood, smoothing her skirt. "Rest well, darling. I'll be back tomorrow evening." After she left, Damien lay in the darkness, listening to the rhythm of his own heartbeat on the monitor. Each beep was a reminder that he was alive, that he had been given a second chance. But as he drifted towards sleep, it was not Cassandra's face he saw in his mind. It was Olivia's eyes, professional and distant, hiding depths of pain that he had caused. And for the first time in 5 years, Damien Cole wondered if the empire he had built was actually a prison he had constructed around himself. one successful deal at a time. The heart monitor beeped steadily in the darkness, counting out the seconds of a life that had almost ended, and might now, somehow, have the chance to truly begin. Morning light filtered through the hospital blinds, casting striped shadows across Damien's room. He had barely slept, his mind replaying the encounter with Olivia over and over. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the carefully constructed wall she had built around herself, brick by brick, to keep him out. A different doctor came for morning rounds. A cheerful man in his 50s who introduced himself as Dr. Patterson. He examined Damien thoroughly, explained the medication regimen, and outlined the recovery process with practiced efficiency. Dr. Bennett requested that I take over your case, Dr. Patterson said, making notes on his tablet. She's an excellent physician. You were fortunate she was available when you came in. She working today? Damien asked, trying to sound casual. Dr. Patterson glanced up, and something knowing flickered in his expression. She's in the cardiac unit, yes? But as I understand it, she won't be involved in your direct care going forward. He paused. For the best, really. Objectivity is important in medicine. After the doctor left, Damien found himself watching the door, hoping irrationally that Olivia might walk through it. But the only visitors were nurses, checking his vitals, and an orderly bringing breakfast that tasted like cardboard by mid-morning. Restlessness had set in. Damien was not accustomed to lying still, to being powerless. His phone sat on the bedside table, filled with messages from business associates and employees, all of which suddenly seemed trivial compared to the questions churning in his mind. An unexpected encounter around noon. As Damien was attempting to eat lunch, the door opened. His heart jumped, but it was not Olivia. Instead, a young nurse entered with fresh 4 bags. How are you feeling today, Mr. Cole? She asked brightly. Like I was hit by a truck, he admitted. She laughed. That's actually a good sign. Means you're alert and aware. As she worked, she chatted easily. You know, Dr. Bennett is something of a legend around here. Youngest head of cardiology we've ever had. She's saved more lives than anyone can count. How long has she worked here? Damien asked, hungry for any information. About 4 years, I think. She came from a research position at Stanford. We're lucky to have her, the nurse finished with the 4 and smiled. She's tough, but fair. Doesn't suffer fools, but she'll go to the ends of the earth for her patients. After the nurse left, Damien lay back, processing this information. Olivia had been at Stanford. When they were together, she had talked about her dream of doing cardiac research. But he had barely listened, too focused on his own ambitions. It seemed she had achieved her dreams without him. The thought was both painful and strangely comforting. The confrontation that evening. As the sun set beyond the window, Cassandra returned. She looked immaculate, as always, carrying a leather portfolio and wearing an expression that Damien had learned to recognize as her serious business face. We need to talk, she said, settling into the chair with the portfolio on her lap. About what? About us. About this. She gestured vaguely at the hospital room. Damien, I've been thinking. This heart attack, it's a wake-up call. You need to slow down, delegate more, take care of yourself. I agree, he said carefully. Good. So I've made a list of properties we can sell to reduce your workload. The restaurant chain, for starters, and that development project in the East District. We can liquidate those assets in Cassandra. That's not what I meant by slowing down. She looked up, surprised. What did you mean then? Damien struggled to find the words. How could he explain that lying here, facing his own mortality, had made him question everything? That for the first time in years, he was wondering if success measured in dollars was actually success at all. I meant that maybe I need to reevaluate what's important, he said slowly. Maybe I've been prioritizing the wrong things. Cassandra's perfectly shaped eyebrows drew together. What are you saying? Before he could answer, the door opened and Olivia walked in. She stopped short when she saw Cassandra. Damien saw a flash of something cross her face before the professional mask slammed back into place. I apologize for interrupting, Olivia said formally. I needed to review something in Mr. Cole's file for the transition to Dr. Patterson. Of course, Dr. Cassandra said, her voice cool, though I'm surprised you're still involved in my fiance's care. I understood another physician had taken over. He has, Olivia replied evenly. This is just a formality. The tension in the room was thick enough to cut. Damien watched the two women, so different in every way, felt the weight of his choices pressing down on him. Cassandra stood, gathering her portfolio. Actually, doctor, since you're here, perhaps you can explain something to me. Damien mentioned that you two knew each other before. How exactly do you know my fiancé? Olivia's expression never changed, but Damien saw her hand tighten on the folder she was holding. We were acquainted several years ago. It's not relevant to his medical care. I think I'll be the judge of what's relevant, Cassandra said, her voice hardening. You see, doctor, I make it my business to know everything about the people in Damien's life. And I find it rather convenient that his ex-girlfriend just happened to be the cardiologist on duty when he needed emergency care. Cassandra. That's enough, Damien said sharply, but Olivia raised her hand, stopping him. She looked directly at Cassandra, and when she spoke, her voice was cold as winter. That's right, I understand you're protective of your relationship. But let me be very clear. I didn't choose to treat Mr. Cole. I didn't ask for this situation. I was the cardiologist on duty when he was brought in, and I did my job, which was to save his life. Whatever happened between us in the past is exactly that past. I have no interest in your fiancé beyond ensuring his medical recovery. Is that clear enough for you? Cassandra's face flushed with anger, but before she could respond, Olivia turned to Damien. Mr. Cole, your recovery is progressing well. Dr. Patterson will take excellent care of you. I wish you all the best. She walked out, and this time Damien knew with crushing certainty that she meant it. She was closing the door on whatever had once existed between them. He had no right to stop her. After Olivia left, Cassandra turned to Damien, her composure cracking. Please tell me there's nothing still between you and that woman. There isn't, Damien said quietly. There hasn't been for 5 years. But there was something once. Something significant. He nodded slowly. Yes, we lived together for 3 years. She wanted to get married. I wasn't ready. Why not? Cassandra demanded. What was wrong with her? Nothing was wrong with her. Damien closed his eyes, exhausted. Everything was wrong with me. Cassandra stared at him, and he saw understanding dawn in her eyes. You loved her. You still love her? I don't know what I feel, Damien admitted, which was not quite true. He was beginning to know exactly what he felt, and it terrified him. But I do know that I'm not being fair to you, Cassandra. You deserve someone who can give you their whole heart, and I don't think I can. She laughed bitterly. Are you actually breaking up with me while lying in a hospital bed after a heart attack? That's rich, Damien. Even for you. I'm sorry you're sorry. She shook her head, gathering her things with sharp, angry movements. You know what? I'm not even surprised. I always knew you were holding something back. I just didn't know it was her. She paused at the door. Good luck, Damien. I hope she's worth throwing everything away for. After Cassandra left, the room felt oppressively quiet. Damien lay in the darkness, his chest aching with more than just physical pain. He had just ended his engagement, alienated the woman he once loved, and faced the reality that he might have spent 5 years running from the only thing that had ever truly mattered. A late-night visitor around midnight? Unable to sleep, Damien was staring at the ceiling when he heard the door open softly. A figure slipped in, and in the dim light from the monitors, he recognized Olivia. She moved quietly to his bedside, checking the machines with practiced efficiency. She seemed surprised when she realized he was awake. I'm sorry, she whispered. I didn't mean to disturb you. I just wanted to check your overnight readings, Olivia reached out, and she stepped back instinctively. Please, just 5 minutes. That's all I'm asking. She hesitated, then sighed. 5 minutes, Damien. Then you need to rest. Cassandra left. We're done. I'm sorry to hear that. Are you really? He studied her face in the dim light. Because I'm not. Not anymore. Don't do this, Olivia said, her voice suddenly thick with emotion. Don't make this about us. You nearly died, Damien. You're emotional and vulnerable, and you're confusing gratitude with something else. Is that really what you think? That I'm just grateful you saved my life? I think you're scared. I think facing your mortality has made you nostalgic for the past. But the past is gone, Damien. We can't get it back. What if I don't want the past? He pushed himself up, ignoring the protest from his chest. What if I want something new? Something better than what we had before? Olivia's eyes glistened with unshed tears. You broke my heart. Do you understand that? When I walked out of that apartment 5 years ago, I felt like I was dying. I cried for months. I threw myself into work because it was the only thing that didn't hurt. And now you're lying here telling me you want something new, as if 5 years of pain can just be erased. I know I hurt you, Damien said softly. I know I was selfish and blind and stupid. And I know I have no right to ask for forgiveness. But Olivia, seeing you again, it's made me realize that I've been half alive for 5 years. I built an empire, but I forgot to build a life. That's not my problem to solve, she whispered. I know. I'm not asking you to solve it. I'm just asking for a chance to prove that I've learned from my mistakes. That I can be the man you deserved back then. Olivia wiped her eyes quickly, professionally. I can't do this right now. You need to rest, and I need to think. She moved toward the door, then paused. Get better, Damien. Focus on your health. Everything else can wait. She left, and Damien lay back, his heart racing in a way that had nothing to do with his medical condition. For the first time in days, he felt something other than regret. He felt hope. 3 weeks after his heart attack, Damien was discharged from the hospital. Dr. Patterson had given him strict instructions about diet, exercise, and stress management. Cassandra's absence from his life had simplified things considerably. Though he knew the business complications of their separation would surface eventually, his apartment felt cavernous and cold. The sleek modern furniture and expensive art that had once been status symbols now seemed like decorations in a museum dedicated to a life he no longer wanted. On his second day home, a package arrived. Inside was a book about cardiac rehabilitation and a handwritten note on hospital stationery. Take care of yourself. You have a second chance. Use it wisely. Obadamian read the note a dozen times, searching for hidden meaning in the careful script. The fact that Olivia had sent anything at all felt significant. Over the following weeks, Damien threw himself into recovery with the same intensity he had once brought to business deals. He hired a nutritionist, worked with a physical therapist, and attended cardiac rehab sessions religiously. But more than that, he began to examine the architecture of his life and found it wanting. He started selling off assets, just as Cassandra had suggested, but not for the reasons she had proposed. He sold the restaurant chain to a group of investors who would treat the employees fairly. He handed off the East District development to his most trusted associate. He restructured his company, delegating more and working fewer hours. His colleagues thought he was having a breakdown. His competitors circled like sharks, sensing weakness. But Damien was discovering that what looked like weakness from the outside felt like strength on the inside. The chance, meeting 6 weeks after his discharge. Damien was at the farmer's market on a Saturday morning, following his nutritionist's advice to buy fresh, organic produce. He was examining tomatoes when he heard a familiar voice behind him. Those are good. The ones on the left are sweeter. He turned, and there was Olivia, wearing jeans and a simple blue sweater, her hair down around her shoulders. She looked younger somehow, more like the woman he remembered from 5 years ago. Dr. Bennett, he said, his heart doing that thing it had been doing since the surgery, beating a little too fast whenever he thought of her. Olivia, she corrected with a small smile. We're not in the hospital anymore, Olivia, he repeated, savoring her name. Are you stalking me, or is this just an incredibly fortunate coincidence? Coincidence, she said, though a hint of amusement flickered in her eyes. I come here every Saturday. This is the first time I've seen you. I'm trying to eat better. Doctor's orders. He gestured at his basket, which contained an assortment of vegetables he had no idea how to prepare. She glanced at his selections and raised an eyebrow. Do you know what to do with kale? Eat it. She laughed and the sound hit him like sunshine after a storm. You're supposed to cook it, Damien, unless you enjoy eating bitter leaves raw. Honestly, I've been living on grilled chicken and steamed broccoli for 6 weeks. I'm open to any suggestions that don't taste like cardboard. Olivia hesitated, and he could see her internal debate. Then she sighed. Come on. Let me help you before you accidentally poison yourself with bad cooking. For the next hour, they walked through the market together. Olivia taught him how to select produce, explained which vegetables paired well together, and shared simple recipes he could manage. It was easy and comfortable in a way that surprised them both. It seemed different, Olivia said as they waited in line to pay. More relaxed. I've made some changes, Damien admitted. I've cut back at work, sold off some properties. Turns out almost dying gives you perspective on what actually matters and what matters, she asked quietly. He looked at her directly. Not dying alone in an empty apartment surrounded by expensive things and no one to share them with? Olivia's expression softened. That's quite a realization. It's one of many. He paid for his groceries, and they walked out into the sunshine. Can I buy you coffee? There's a cafe around the corner. She started to refuse. He could see it in her eyes. But then something shifted. Okay, coffee, but just coffee, Damien. Don't read too much into it. The conversation in the cafe was busy with Saturday morning crowds, but they found a quiet table in the corner. Damien ordered black coffee, no sugar, part of his new regimen. Olivia got a cappuccino with extra foam, so Damien said, stirring his coffee unnecessarily. Tell me about Stanford. Tell me about the last 5 years. Olivia studied him for a moment. Why do you want to know? Because I wasn't paying attention when I should have been. I want to understand who you are now. She seemed to consider this, then nodded. After we broke up, I was angry. Angry at you, angry at myself for staying as long as I did. I threw myself into work. Got the Stanford position doing research on cardiac stem cell therapy. It was groundbreaking work, important work. Why did you leave? Because I realized I missed treating actual patients. Research is valuable, but I wanted to save lives directly, not just contribute data to papers. So when the position here opened up, I applied. She smiled. The fact that it was 3,000 miles away from you didn't hurt. Fair enough. And have you been happy? I've been fulfilled, Olivia said carefully. I've done good work. I've saved lives. I've built a career I'm proud of. She paused. But happy? That's a more complicated question. Have you dated anyone? She raised an eyebrow. That's a personal question. I know. You don't have to answer. Yes, I've dated. A few relationships, nothing serious. I was gun-shy after you. She met his eyes. What about you? Obviously, there was Cassandra. Damien grimaced. Cassandra was safe. She wanted the same things I wanted, or at least I thought she did. Success, status, a partnership based on mutual ambition. It seemed practical. Did you love her? I cared about her, but love? No, I don't think I did. He leaned forward. Want to know something terrible? I think I proposed to her because I was trying to prove to myself that I was over you. That I could build a life without you. And could you? I built something. But it wasn't really a life. It was more like an elaborate distraction. They sat in silence for a moment, the noise of the cafe swirling around them. I don't know what you want from me, Damien, Olivia said finally. I'm not the same person I was 5 years ago. I'm not that girl who would wait around hoping you'd change. I don't want that girl back, Damien said. I want to know the woman you've become. And I want you to see that I'm not the same man who lets you walk away. People don't really change. Maybe not fundamentally, but they can grow. They can learn. They can realize that the things they thought mattered are just noise, and the things they ignored are everything. He reached across the table, not quite touching her hand. I'm not asking for your forgiveness right now. I'm not asking for a second chance. I'm just asking if we can talk sometimes. If we can be in each other's lives, even as friends. Olivia looked at his hand, so close to hers. Friends, she repeated. To start. She was quiet for so long that Damien thought she would refuse. Then she nodded slowly. To start? But Damien, I need you to understand something. If you hurt me again, there won't be a third chance. I won't survive it. I won't, he promised. I swear to you, I won't. Building trust over the next 3 months, Damien and Olivia developed a cautious friendship. They met for coffee every few weeks. He attended his cardiac rehab sessions faithfully, and she occasionally stopped by to check his progress. Though she maintained professional boundaries, Damien discovered things about Olivia he had never known. She volunteered at a free clinic every other Saturday. She had a weakness for terrible reality TV shows. She had learned to play piano during her Stanford years, and now practiced every evening to unwind from stressful days. In turn, Olivia saw the changes in Damien. He had sold his penthouse and moved to a smaller, warmer apartment filled with books instead of chrome. He had reduced his work hours dramatically and was mentoring young entrepreneurs instead of crushing them. He had taken up painting badly, but with enthusiasm. "You're different," she told him one evening as they walked through the park near her apartment. "It's not just the surface changes. There's something fundamentally different about you." "I faced death," Damien said simply. "It strips away the pretense. All the things I thought made me important, the money, the properties, the deals, none of it mattered when I was lying on that operating table. The only thing I regretted was pushing away the one person who actually saw me, really saw me and loved me anyway." Olivia stopped walking. "Damien, no, we're taking this slow. I know you need time to trust me again. But I need you to know something." He turned to face her, his expression serious. "I love you, Olivia. I loved you 5 years ago, even though I was too stupid and scared to admit it. And I love you now even more because I finally understand what I almost lost." Tears spilled down her cheeks. "You can't just say that and expect everything to be okay." "I don't expect anything," he said gently, wiping her tears with his thumb. "I just needed you to know. You don't have to say anything back. You don't have to do anything. I just wanted to be honest." Olivia closed her eyes, emotions warring on her face. When she opened them, they were clear and determined. "I need time, Damien. I need to know that this isn't just fear of death or loneliness or gratitude. I need to know it's real." "Take all the time you need," he said. "I'm not going anywhere." The test a month later, Damien's company faced a crisis. A major deal in Dubai, worth over $50 million, was collapsing. The investors wanted him there immediately, wanted him to fly across the world and spend weeks salvaging the project. The old Damien would have been on a plane within hours. Instead, he called his most trusted associate and handed over the reins. "You can handle this," he told her. "You don't need me. And even if you did, I'm not coming." When Olivia heard about it, she showed up at his apartment unannounced. "Are you insane?" she demanded. "That's a massive deal. Your company could take a serious hit." "Maybe," Damien said calmly. "Or maybe my team is more capable than I ever gave them credit for. Besides, I have cardiac rehab on Tuesday and a painting class on Thursday. I'm not missing those. A painting class is more important than $50 million. "Yes," he said simply. "Because that $50 million won't matter if I have another heart attack. It won't matter if I die alone and miserable. And it won't matter if I lose you again by proving I haven't actually changed." Olivia stared at him. Then slowly, a smile spread across her face. "You really have changed, haven't you?" "I'm trying," he said. "Every day." She stepped closer. "The deal in Dubai, your associate, she saved it, by the way. I saw the news this morning. Good for her. She deserves the credit." Olivia shook her head, still smiling. Then, before she could second-guess herself, she kissed him. It was soft and tentative, a question more than an answer. When they pulled apart, Damien cupped her face in his hands. "What does this mean?" "It means I'm willing to try," Olivia whispered. "It means I think maybe you have changed. And it means I'm tired of being scared of getting hurt. Life's too short, and we've already wasted 5 years. Are you sure?" "No," she admitted. "But I'm sure that I want to find out." 6 months later, the hospital garden was in full bloom, roses and lavender filling the air with sweetness. Damien sat on a bench waiting, his heart, both literally and figuratively, healthier than it had been in years. Olivia emerged from the hospital doors, exhausted from a 12-hour shift but smiling when she saw him. He stood, offering her the coffee he'd brought, prepared exactly the way she liked it. "You're a lifesaver," she said, kissing him gently. "Technically, you're the lifesaver," he countered. "I'm just the guy who brings coffee." They walked through the garden together, hands intertwined. Over the past 6 months, they had rebuilt their relationship slowly and carefully, like architects constructing something meant to last. They had gone to couples therapy to work through old wounds. They had established boundaries and learned each other's needs. They had fought and made up and learned that love wasn't about never having problems. It was about choosing to work through them together. "I have something for you," Damien said, stopping by the fountain in the center of the garden. "If it's jewelry, I'm going to be suspicious," Olivia teased. "Not jewelry." We pulled out an envelope. "Open it." Inside were architectural plans. Olivia studied them, confused. What is this? It's a community health center, Damien explained. Free cardiac care for people who can't afford it? I'm funding it, but I want you to design the program. I want you to be the medical director. Olivia looked up at him, eyes wide. Damien, this is incredible, but this must cost millions. It's the best money I'll ever spend, he said, because it's not about me or my empire anymore. It's about us, about the life we're building together, about using what I have to support what you care about. Tears streamed down her face. I don't know what to say. Say you'll marry me. The words came out before he could stop them. He hadn't planned this, didn't have a ring, but it felt right. I know we said we'd take things slow, and we can if you want. We can date for years if that's what you need. But Olivia, I already wasted 5 years of my life without you. I don't want to waste another day. So if you're ready, if you think you can trust me with your heart again, I promise I'll spend the rest of my life proving I deserve it. Olivia laughed and cried at the same time. You're supposed to have a ring when you propose. I don't need a ring to know I want to spend my life with you. She kissed him hard, and when she pulled back, she was smiling through her tears. Yes, I'll marry you. But on one condition. Anything. Promise me that if life ever gets hard again, if stress builds up or work gets crazy, you won't shut me out. Promise me you'll let me in, that we'll face everything together. I promise, Damien said, and he meant it with every beat of his healing heart. Together, always. Epilogue. 1 year later, the community health center opened on a bright spring morning. Local news covered the event, filming as Olivia cut the ribbon and welcomed the first patients. Damien stood in the background, content to let her have the spotlight. That evening, in the home they now shared, a cozy brownstone filled with both of their belongings and memories. They collapsed on the couch together. Today was perfect, Olivia said, resting her head on his shoulder. Oh, it was, Damien agreed. Though I have to say, my favorite part was when that elderly patient told everyone you were an angel. She was sweet. A bit overdramatic, but sweet. Damien tilted her face up to look at him. She wasn't wrong, though. You saved my life, Olivia. Not just in the hospital, but every day since. You saved me from myself. We saved each other, she corrected. You taught me that people can change, that second chances are worth taking, and that love doesn't have to be perfect to be real. He kissed her softly. I love you, Mrs. Cole. I love you too, she whispered against his lips. My stubborn, foolish, wonderful husband. Outside, the city hummed with life. But inside their home, two hearts that had nearly been lost to each other beat in perfect synchrony, proving that sometimes the greatest love stories are the ones that begin with an ending, only to find their way back to a new beginning. The heart monitor had long since been silenced, but Damien would never forget its steady beep, the sound of a second chance. The rhythm of a life almost lost but ultimately saved by the only medicine that truly heals love, forgiveness, and the courage to try again. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this story. If you enjoyed this content, don't forget to click like. Share this story with your friends and family, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on more meaningful stories.